Wheat ready in the United States and yet favorable weather for corn and soybeans. Jerry Gidel is ready to assess all of that and more right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, we had corn and soybeans this week going sideways. What do you think is the major reason for that?
Well, I think it's a scenario where the weather situation here in the Midwest, uh, after being pretty hot in that, and we've had some rains coming around that bubble of heat, uh, and that the markets uh, bounce back and forth here. We did uh, end up having some ideas here concerning the crop size. Uh, being closer to some of the USDA's longer term trends at this point. But at the same time, we still have 60% of the US pollination yet ahead of us here. They reported 41% here earlier that Monday night at this point. And so there is some vulnerability here. Right now, the early week situation here for the coming week still has moderate type temperatures, but there's a significant heat dome at the Rockies and West, and there's indications that's going to move back in again to the Midwest here at the end of next week. So I think that's part of the reason why these corn and soybean prices have kind of treaded sideways here to see what the impact of weather is still quite impressive this time. It's
Yeah,
hugely.
some people are even talking about record yields.
Oh, well, yeah, record yields. We had just a slight touch of that last year at the 177.3 on corn, but there's been an ongoing projection from the USDA using their long-term trend analysis that we've had some 180, 179 to 181 kind of numbers we haven't reached, and then they're still project this year's trend line analysis projects towards the 181, which would be even with the reduced acres and that, still a significant size crop. And that, I guess there's the one thing we got to also keep in mind here that the USDA looks like that they are going to make some acreage adjustments here in their August crop report. A lot of times they don't do that after the July and August kind of stay the same, and then they make their big adjustments in September. And so, but because of the significant flooding that occurred in northwest Iowa, southeast uh, South Dakota, and southwest Minnesota, the potential for some significant type of reductions in the harvested acres in those three states, which, and interestingly enough, all three of those states has some very significant production prospects that kind of circled that whole area there. So if we took 500,000, 700,000 harvested acres out of those three states, that would make a significant impact on the total production. But right now, at least, the market has not really focused on what that might do to the USDA's August report. But in general, hasn't been a significant period of dryness like we had last year in May and June, or we've had over the years in July, August, and September so far. So the market's definitely recognizing the fact that we could have something higher than last year's 177 bushel corn yield, or maybe even on soybeans approaching the 52 bushels that the USDA has at this point. So that's part of the reason why the market's already has some big numbers in it, but at the same time, they're also cautious that weather could still have an impact on those yields.
Yeah, and on Friday we finished the trading with a record wheat rally. What's behind that rally for you?
Well, it's a combination of uh, excellent world demand that came in here at when the U.S. and world prices weakened on the well, it's really the unexpectedly high U.S. Soft red, excuse me, spring wheat price yields at this point, and to some extent, that's not those projections by the USDA are not, erroneous at this point. The hard red and soft red crops. Pretty well known at this point. They moved up about 35, 40,000, 40 million. Uh, on their numbers, but we had a big jump in spring wheat, and so that pressed the markets down in the U.S., and that also prompted the world prices to go down. And boy, we had a huge jump here in demand. We had Egypt in, we had uh, Algeria. We had some Southeast Asian buyers in here, and they came in aggressively and purchased a lot of wheat over the weekend, last weekend, and on into early this week. And so that prompted the sellers of wheat here in the U.S. to short cover here as we got after Tuesday of this week pretty aggressively. And I think the world has decided that with the uncertainties that's going on in the Black Sea and that the wheat prices are bargains, and they're not going to press these prices a lot at this point. And particularly with some of the reports coming out of the Black Sea, both on the Russian and the Ukrainian side here, the prospects for the world crop uh, production could be still further being declined on stuff. And uh, there was some, uh, so at that point, the wheat market, and actually from a standpoint of long-term price activity, usually wheat is one of the first ones that finds their base and maybe gets into post-harvest mentality here around the world, primarily because of the timing of wheat usually is a mid to late summer type crop. And in the fall, this is all based off the northern hemisphere, by the way. And that then we get the soybeans and corn in the fall. So it sometimes has a pretty decent recovery in prices here during the late July and August periods. It kind of stumbles a little bit in September with the corn and soybeans harvest picking up in the northern hemisphere. But at this point, I think that's a very good sign that maybe we found some base going on in here in the short term. Now, the biggest thing right now is that how
Well, I was
significant.
going to ask you about where this market is headed, most importantly for corn and soybeans.
Well, that's the thing. I think the wheat could, right now at least, the wheat could have a potential here to getting back, maybe even above $6 here, and maybe even up to the 625, 640 zone basis. Chicago. At the same time, the swing factors here on corn and soybeans, where we've pressed the new crop values below $4, which has been long-term support in the corn market here. And so the that particular market could easily, hopefully, here we get some kind of weather issues of that. And as I said, I think there is a chance for this heat that's out in the western U.S. to move back in here and timely have an impact on U.S. corn pollination at this point. So I think that's upside potential on corn. It's not huge, though. I would not anticipate that prices here on the futures basis, the December contract is going to be in much above this 440, 450 type of zone here at this point on the soybean side of things. Similarly, at this point, we the weather issues are highly important as to how far they go. But at this point, the 1150, 1170 type numbers here for August and September type of prices here on soybeans will be probably the top side of these things as until we can get a better handle on how the yields are going to come in September and October. But the swing factors on this thing after we've pressed them so hard is not going to be dramatically up until we get harvest time yields available to us here. But right now, I'm not sure we can find a lot of further negativism here about yields and things of that nature in the short term. But at the same time, the markets right now are going to continue to look around the world for influences at this point. Definitely the Black Sea and the issues that I've talked about there are a big factor in both wheat and corn, not so much in the oil seeds at this point. From there, South America at this juncture, I think there's still a few discrepancies between the U.S. DA and expectations down there, but I don't know that it's a huge factor in here to boost us all the way up to $12 or something like that at this point. So keep that in mind on that one. China has really been a mysterious world participant here over the last 4 to 5 months. They have been buyers in South America, but have been limited buyers in the U.S. And that. And so we're in a situation where their livestock numbers have not been really, they've been trying to cut that back as the prices have not been that positive for the producers over there. At the same time, the numbers, I think they're also trying to change some of their feeding processes. Before there was an attitude of heavy proteins and aggressively moving work into the market because they needed it at that point. Now there doesn't seem to be that attitude going on. And so they're stretching out their rations and not using the type of proteins ratios that they had in the past. So that's the one that's probably the most difficult to figure out is this, where's China's demand on oil seeds at this point. Right now, at least, though, looks like that as we get into the fall, they'll be still looking at the U.S. prices for U.S. supplies for their protein. They seem to have kind of resisted buying a lot more out of South America. They probably would be around if Argentina decided to be put some of their U.S. dollar sales in here, but at this point, that hasn't been the case. So right now, at least, though, I think we need to kind of stumble along. It'll be kind of interesting what we might see when we get out there in the first part of August on our Central Illinois crop tour as to how things look at this point. We're going to probably see some good looking beans. The key question is what's inside those corn fields out there to see what kind of yields we do have. But right now, everybody's pretty optimistic about the 2024 U.S. corn yields.
Yes, and next week will be a full market week. What to expect then?
Well, I'm anticipating maybe a little bit more choppiness sideways here at this point. Maybe there's going to be a little strength towards the end of the week because of the likely heat that's going to be moving back into the Midwest at this point. I think we're just going to kind of biding our time here as we go through the latter part of this month and see what the weather really does. The latest, as I said, National Weather Service still has plenty of heat likely here across the whole U.S. and limited moisture west of the Mississippi for the month of August. So I think that's going to be a feature here if it does turn out to be the case. And that does it mean that we're going to have a 172 or 174 U.S. yield? Probably not. but at the same time, maybe it'll take a little edge off this 181 number that's the USDA is currently using.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you then.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Talk to you later.